do not have really strong laws for the media anymore. But a few countries, like for instance Belgium, also the United States with the First Amendment, and especially, for example, Sweden, have very strong laws protecting the media and the work of investigative or general journalists. So from our perspective, this is something, if there are any Swedes here, you have to make sure that your country is really one of the strongholds of freedom of information.
Sweden has an enviable, although far from perfect, record in protecting publications. It has a practical record within the past few years of protecting internet publications against censorship.
And it's precisely Sweden's unique freedom of speech law that prompts WikiLeaks to locate their main site in this unpretentious basement in one of Stockholm's inner suburbs.
Det började med en tunneltjänst, att de skulle tunnla trafik här igenom för att kunna kringgå vissa IP-bandningar och sånt som har skett i andra länder där som inte gillar WikiLeaks. Men senare så valde de att ställa även en maskin här där de publicerar material utifrån.
PRQ offer their customers total secrecy. Their systems prevent anyone from eavesdropping either WikiLeaks chat pages or finding out who sent what to who.
Vi erbjuder dels anonymitetstjänster, så kallade VPN-tunnlar, där en klient från utsidan ansluter till våra maskiner som sedan laddar ner den informationen de vill ha. Så om någon försöker spåra dem ifrån slutstationen, så att säga, där informationen kommer ifrån, så kommer de bara komma till våra maskiner. Och härifrån så lämnar inte vi ut några uppgifter om vem som hade det IP-numret vid det här tillfället.
PRQ have a track record of being the hardest ISP you can find in the world. There's just no one else that bothers less about lawyers harassing them about content they are hosting. And it's just the attitude that, let's say, works very well with what WikiLeaks was set out to do.
Här är vår serverhall.
One reason why WikiLeaks need PRQ is that their operations are protected by Sweden's strict freedom of expression laws. Laws which PRQ exploit to the full.
Vi accepterar allting som faller under, som är lagligt enligt svensk lag. Så accepterar vi precis allting. Oavsett hur omoraliskt eller förkastligt det kan vara i övrigt, så väljer vi att inte göra några moraliska bedömningar. Det är en informationsbomb som står och väntar istället för de konventionella vapnen. Och förhoppningsvis så kan den här informationen på något sätt stoppa några av de konventionella vapnen. Det är min förhoppning.
And we aren't talking about any old information. It's from these servers at PRQ that WikiLeaks has, for example, made public a manual from the United States Guantanamo Bay Detention Center.
A military manual leaked on the internet is revealing details of the way terrorist suspects are being treated at the U.S. naval base at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba.
It tells of the use of solitary confinement and humiliation to break down the detainees mentally. Human rights groups have for years been asking the US administration for access to this manual.
Apparently showing civilians being killed by the US military in Iraq.
It was leaked from within the defense community to a website.
Ja, det var på sajten WikiLeaks som den här kontroversiella videon lades ut. WikiLeaks har kallats en maktfaktor i det nya medielandskapet. Och vissa menar att det här är...
By putting all their resources into the helicopter video, WikiLeaks have managed to attract the attention of some of the biggest players in the news business. This is precisely what Assange needs to help him handle the rest of the leaked US material.
I had been looking at this release and studying it and understanding how to come up with a way to deal with such a tremendously large volume of material that would actually not simply drown any one organization.
Assange proceeds to contact the New York Times, The Guardian and Der Spiegel. He manages to persuade the chief editors of these globally respected papers to publish his material in a coordinated fashion, with Assange pulling the strings.
What is new is us enforcing cooperation between competitive organizations that would otherwise be rivals to do the best by the story, as opposed to simply just doing the best by their own organization.
In late July 2010, the Afghanistan reports are published at the same time and day.
En av militärhistoriens största informationsläckor väcker starka reaktioner.
Well, one of the biggest leaks in US military history has exposed several cover-ups over the war in Afghanistan.
The real story of this material is that it's war. It's one damn thing after another.
The publication of the material is met with praise as well as strong criticism.
The Defense Department demands that WikiLeaks return immediately to the U.S. government all versions of documents obtained directly or indirectly from the Department of Defense databases or records.
For the first time, WikiLeaks are now facing criticism that they find hard to respond to. The material includes the names of civilian Afghanis, putting them at risk of being targeted by the Taliban.
The battlefield consequences of the release of these documents are potentially severe and dangerous.
Mr. Assange can say whatever he likes about the greater good he thinks he and his source are doing, but the truth is they might already have on their hands the blood of some young soldier or that of an Afghan family.
Releasing classified material can be very risky, but Assange says that the end justifies the means.
We would have had to have released all this material without separating out any of it, or released none. The value, the extraordinary value of this historic record to the progress of that war and its potential to save lives outweighs the danger to innocence.
WikiLeaks now takes steps to avoid making the same mistake again. Their next publication, 400,000 military reports from the Iraq War, are painstakingly edited and names removed. They also start reinforcing their network of experienced journalists.
Hey. Okay, so
How are you?
Ian Overton is editor of the independent London-based Bureau of Investigative Journalism, who are now going to analyse the material and produce their own documentaries.
There's a frantic rush of getting the best people we could on board, and we drew up a team of 25 people over a weekend, and my phone went red hot calling people.
It was Saturday night in the middle of August, and about sort of 5 or 6 of us at the Bureau met with Julian. About an hour later I ended up sort of leaving the place with a USB stick full of 400,000 classified military documents.
The material is essentially an encyclopedia of this war, with reports issued day by day, hour by hour, corpse by corpse.
Absolutely unfiltered. These are the reports written by people on the ground straight afterwards. It's kind of the day-to-day war through their eyes. And that's new. We haven't been able to do that before, ever, really.
The material tells of tens of thousands of civilian casualties, figures that the US have withheld to date. And the widespread practice of torture that the US said they'd put a stop to is still being practiced by their Iraqi allies.
I think there are stories that cause you, to be filled with grief.
Some are incredibly harrowing. I mean, you do have children tortured to death or shot in front of parents, and it's not material you can read and not be affected by.
When I was reading the reports, you read a young American soldier writing in a very, very bureaucratic, anodyne, sterile way about a father who's driving his children back home, and he's going too fast, and they open fire at the car, and the father, fearing that his children will be hit, calls all his children to lie on the floor. All of the children are killed, 3 children. And the way it's written up is, it's called an escalation of force. It's not an escalation of force, it's a killing. It's, you know, it's horrific. Is anything truly new in war? War is hell. Awful things happen. And what these logs tell us is that war is hell. They don't hide from the truth. They're not spun by a military spin doctor talking in an air-conditioned conference room in the green zone. This is visceral, unequivocal death written in raw detail.
109,000 lives lost over the course of these reports. We're all doing what we can in something so huge that people can and hopefully will study this data for years. This is worth telling, this is worth getting out there.
The lack of respect for human life runs like a common thread through the material.
Νομίζουμε ότι σας δώσαμε μια πρώτη εικόνα για το φαινόμενο του WikiLeaks, έτσι δεν είναι, Αντώνη?
Σωστά.
Έχουμε και άλλα πράγματα.
Έχουμε και άλλα πράγματα να δούμε. Ένα σημαντικό κομμάτι είναι οι αντιδράσεις που έχει προκαλέσει όλη αυτή η δημοσίευση των εγγράφων, περισσότερο σε πολιτικό επίπεδο, όπου θα είναι θέμα...
Οι αντιδράσεις, αλλά νομίζω ότι επειδή εμείς δεν θέλουμε να κάνουμε καμιά έρευνα όσον αφορά το φαινόμενο WikiLeaks.
Εμάς μας ενδιαφέρει να ασχοληθούμε σε όσο αφορά το τεχνολογικό περισσότερο.
Γι' αυτό λοιπόν
κομμάτι.
Νομίζουμε ότι είναι πολύ χρήσιμο να δούμε στην επόμενη εκπομπή και αυτό το καινούριο μέσο που λέγεται διαδίκτυο, πώς μπορεί να χρησιμοποιηθεί σαν μέσο ενημέρωσης πια.
Ακριβώς. Και τι δύναμη μπορεί να έχει τελικά
στη ζωή
αυτό
μας,
το μέσο.
Οπότε θα κλείσουμε εδώ την απόψινή μας εκπομπή με το πρώτο μέρος του WikiLeaks και στην επόμενη θα σας δείξουμε κάποια ακόμη ενδιαφέροντα στοιχεία, αλλά νομίζουμε και μια ενδιαφέρουσα συνέντευξη με τον Μιχάλη Βαφόπουλο, που είναι καθηγητής του Αριστοτελείου Πανεπιστημίου Θεσσαλονίκης, ο οποίος θα μας μιλήσει για το νέο μέσο που λέγεται διαδίκτυο. Ανανεώνουμε λοιπόν το ραντεβού μας
για την επόμενη φορά, αφού τονίσουμε το site της εκπομπής μας, είναι www.aegeandigital.net, όπου μπορούν να δουν και άλλες εκπομπές που έχουμε ήδη προβάλει. Ακριβώς.
Από εμάς, καλό σας βράδυ.
Καλό σας βράδυ.